Welcome, everybody. So this is the next episode of The Expert Talk. And today we are traveling to Ohio, if I'm not wrong, to Cincinnati. And it's quite cold there, right? Aloysius, how is the weather?
Cold, overcast, and we're expecting really cold this evening.
Oh my God. I'm in Germany, as you know, here it's freezing as well, but the temperature is the next day is a bit like climbing, which is good because I absolutely don't like cold. I love heat. And now to jump in our hot topic today, I hope this was a good bridge. I'm not quite sure. Let me try to introduce you because I'm very happy to meet you today and to have a lively discussion with you about several things. So who is tonight with me? It's Aloysius Carl. And Aloysius, if I am not wrong, please correct me if so, you have more than 30 years of experience advising senior leaders, founders through growth, complexity, and transformation. You began your career in a Fortune 500 company, and then you took a defining stand on ethics. Maybe we can speak about this a bit later. And then you moved into entrepreneurship. And doing so, you founded 9 companies, which is very impressive. And also more impressive is 6 of them are still successful. Before you then jumped into, I guess, Procter and Gamble, right? So this was the change after that. So Procter and Gamble is also very well known. And now, since retiring from P&G, you are focusing on coaching, writing a lot, right? I mean, I already heard about your books, and I'm very curious, very interested, to speak a bit later. And you are helping leaders to see what's really happening inside their organization and align this with innovation, culture, integrity, and to show a process and also a progress that shows real impact and real results. So thank you so much, Aloysius, and welcome to the podcast. I hope everything was correct.
It was. And thank you, Suzette. Very, very nice and generous introduction. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We already spoke a bit up front, and you mentioned your books, and we spoke about ethics and, and trust in companies, and that trust is also, it's the fundamental part of building up any company, right? So trust.
Absolutely. It's the foundation between any human engagement. You won't accept a deal or take a deal if you don't trust me. And if you do, then I think you're a little crazy. Right? This all comes down to human connection and interaction, and it starts with faith and trust, and which all starts from an ethical behavior.
Absolutely right. I totally agree. Thank you so much for this. And I was just thinking, what are like vehicles or tools, how to build the trust in a company, especially, imagine like, I have 2 pictures in my head. On the one hand, I have a company which I like to build, like I'm a first-time founder, first-time CEO, and I like to build a startup. I like to build a company. So how to deal with trust. And on the other hand, I'm like the CEO maybe, or the team lead, of a company with, I don't know, like an SME, like 100 employees. So how to make sure that trust is implemented?
I think it starts with a very simple question, right? It's, can they and should they believe me? If you start from that approach, it controls everything you do, and it does so in a very elemental way, which is what the important thing is. You should only make claims which you can prove. If you can't prove it, you shouldn't make it. And if you think you can do it, but you can't prove it, that's what you should say. It all starts with clarity of intent and meaning, and proving that people can believe what you say. And that takes some self-awareness, right? A lot of times we don't sit and listen to what we say, right? We just spew it out there for what we want to get. And a lot of times that's the first erosion point. And that's how I think. I think everybody wants to trust us. So we start at this level and we either go up from there or down from there. But those first erosions happen very quickly without much thought. And you have to be conscientious about it and intentional about it.
So Aloysius, does this mean, for example, I don't know, I give frank feedback to my coworkers, or I mean, which tools can I use to build trust within the company?
So first thing is, let's all start out with what the real goal is. What are we trying to accomplish? What's the purpose of our mission here? And then how are we managing success? And to be totally transparent about it. The first thing that erodes trust in most organizations is that lack of transparency, where we tell the employees, we've got this and we know this, but we can't trust you with this. Really? Is that how you install trust? Trust is something to be received. It has to be given. It's a real interesting little gift in exchange, right? To get it, you have to give it. Give to get, as they say, right? The giver society. And that's the foundational thing. And are you really doing that? Do you really have a partnership? You ask somebody to come and work for you at a company, and they put their career and their faith in you. And then you do signs like, I can't trust you, so, well, no, you don't need to know that, or that's sensitive. Now, there are some things that are sensitive. You need to be straight about that, but most things aren't. It's about control and actually lack of trust. And if you don't trust your people, there's no way they're going to trust you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is safe space. People should be able to challenge you. That's the other role of trust. I trust you enough to come in and say things that I might not necessarily agree with because you care and you're just trying to make us all better. So it's how you react to those things as well. Most times it's not something you do extremely high at a formal level, trust and belief. It's this interaction like you and I are just having just now, and how I own it and how I'm responsible for it and how I show you I really care what you think and that you matter to me. That's the foundational stuff. And that's the reason why I think gets lost in most companies is they all try to go up here, right? This personal thing is messy. There's a lot of nuances and variables and people chemistry. This is where it's all won or lost. And I watch companies and leaders go through this, and I watch them just hurting their own performances and impacting their teams and not even realize what's going on because they're so distant from where they're trying to be to where life really happens. Life is messy. Running a company is messy, especially starting a company like you said you like to do, right? It's messy. If you try to avoid the mess, all you're going to do is set up for a bigger mess later on. That's one of my principles of life and business, right? You can't avoid the mess. You might as well just dig in and participate in it and address it, because the longer you let it go, it festers, it becomes bigger, and this ugly thing that psychologically and subconsciously affects everybody, and not in a good way.
Wow, thank you so much. This was a very nice speech. I'm very, very, very interested in the further discussion with you. So my next question, I really have to ask my next question. You also spoke about this, is how to run a company successful.
How to run a company successfully?
Yes, exactly. How to run a company successfully.
Well, I would tell you the first thing you should start with is a big problem. Most people would say a great idea or talent. I say no, it's a big problem. Because if you solve a big problem, you have a market and you have willing customers. And so it's having a big problem and then coming up with a great way of solving that and then being able to prove you can do it. And then all those other things will follow. But that's the first thing. Most people start with the wrong thing. They think it's having a great idea. No, it's not. You can have a great idea, but if it doesn't address a problem that I deal with every day, where's your market, right?
That's so nice. I like this very much. You have to find, or you have to have a problem, and then you spoke about the mess you're also really creating because you're founding the company. Then you need, that, like the fundamentals, you need the trust, you need the transparency, you need the space. So it's a lot of things you have to take into account. Luckily, you wrote a book about all this.
Well, I'm writing a book about it. I'm finishing up, right? But it's all true if you sit back and think about it. Anybody who's ever started a company and successfully grew it fundamentally realizes that if they just sit back and take a look at what happened, right? We all start off with these things, got to have a business plan, and some people worry about having a precise business. You throw 80% of the plan out as soon as you get into reality, right? Because life says that doesn't work, so why do we spend so much time trying to get the perfect plan when we're going to throw 80% of it away?
I can tell you. I can tell you. Let me just go back to this question. I can tell you because this is the next topic I have to involve. I'm sorry. It's so nice talking to you.
Please.
Aloysius, can you just let me know quickly, what would you prefer from your experience, bootstrapping versus seed? What do you think?
Bootstrapping. As soon as you take outside money, the paradigm changes, right? And you have other voices in there, and they're driving things other than creating a strong, solid business. Because I don't know why outside money is really big on speed and growing market share. What about profits? What about proving that this thing is a real productive model and actually really produces something of value and returns value? But no, we want to get big because we assume we get big enough, we'll figure out how to make profits. I think that's why it's like a 10 to 12% success rate with venture capitalists and the companies they back. And I think they're part of the reason of the problem, because they push for certain things that the founders aren't ready for, that maybe the business is not ready for, and they change it. The other thing is the equity. I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears in something. I'm going to hold on to as much of it as possible. And as soon as we go to those outside funds and those rounds, oh my God, what a nightmare. You spend half the time managing that process than you do building the company. And so I think it's a big distraction too. And I think bootstrapping keeps you lean and mean, right? You don't go and spend money on stuff that you aren't highly confident it's going to do something. But I guess you get some luxury over here, and that changes. That's good.
Sorry for this. It's so nice talking to you. You know, I'm squeezing you because of your knowledge. You know,
It's experience.
I got the chance to talk to you, so I have to ask my questions. I'm very interested. So what was the question? You founded 9 companies. How many of those were bootstrapped?
Well, 8. The only reason the 9th wasn't is I started it inside another company. So really it was a new division. That wasn't bootstrapped. And it caused a lot of problems too, because I broke a lot of their rules, right? Luckily, I had success and the CEO liked me and thought a lot of me, so I got away with it. Otherwise, I would have gotten fired, right? So I went in there and operated a lot like I did with my own businesses. And I had to apologize even to my manager, because I had this big workout plan and there was one key thing. And early on in the year, I decided, no, this is wasted effort. And I just dumped it. Never told her. We're doing my year-end appraisal and she goes, about this. And I'm like, yeah, I need to apologize to you. I go, yeah, that didn't get done. She goes, I know, I want to know what happened. I go, oh, well, I just shut it down a month in. Decided this was the reasons why, and it wasn't worth my time. And she goes, and you didn't think to talk to me? And I go, yeah, I'm sorry. It'll never happen again. I really think that was my entrepreneurial spirit coming out and just operating like I've done over the last 15, 20 years. I didn't even think about it. And I understand how that looks like a lack of respect, but that's what I did. Yeah. So 8 were bootstrapped. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing those details. Next question. Again, it's because, the topic is so nice, and we have, as you know, we are a coaching and a recruiting agency. So this is what we combine. It's a good idea. We believe so. And a lot of the young experts, in our database we are talking to, they are, of course, interested in founding their own company, starting their own business. So, and I guess yesterday the question rised up, when is the right time to start your own business? What do you think, Aloysius?
Okay, so I'm going to answer another question you didn't ask me, right? Because, and I write about like this in my book, people glorify about starting up your own business. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not all glory. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And you're going to have those long lost nights. I'm telling you, I work 20-hour days. I was wondering if it was all for naught and we were going to lose everything, and what kind of risk I'm placing on my family. And the stress sometimes was unbelievable. That's the reality of starting their own business, because you can't go for somebody for support. You can't go to somebody for a better decision. Well, you can, but doesn't mean you're going to get it. And they're not set up there. You got to go create it. And it's hard to go get money too. It's all you. Everything comes to you, right? Take all the world's pressure and it's on you. That's what starting a business is like. So that's the first thing. Let's stop glorifying it and talk about the reality. Now, the second thing is if you do it and you're successful, there's nothing better, right? Because you did that. You went and you faced all that fear and all that pressure and stress, and you came out the other side. And now another reality I see about this is I have a lot of friends who have their own businesses still, right? So I've never seen an entrepreneur say things are going great. I mean, never. And I have a friend who's killing it with his printing business right now and has had going to have his greatest year, probably last 2025, after 3 years of growth. And he still can't say that because you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop because you don't know what change is going to happen and cause you a lot of nightmares. And he had to morph his whole business when the internet got big because they did a lot of consumer printing and stuff. And he totally transitioned and went totally into commercial and specialized and everything else. So that's all big risk. And he didn't know if it was going to work. It was all new territory, but he had no choice. And so this is the other reality of business. So the original question was, when should you start your business? When you have a big problem, you have good insights, and you have confidence that you can make a difference. And then it has to be something you're interested in. Now, I'm not going to tell you it has to be your big passion. I don't subscribe to that. But you got to have enough interest in it that you won't get bored in those, I call them quiet moments, where you're not getting any business. You're not getting any accolades. There's no positive feedback. And all it is you working and grinding to get there. Because if you don't have an interest in it and you don't have that kind of connection to it, you'll stop. And then all that work you've done will have been for naught. Because I don't know of one business that doesn't have that quiet time, where it's just hard work without a whole lot of return. So
I could listen to you for hours.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. I
Yeah,
like to
take
think
it.
of all the experience I have. And that's where I'm at now. Everybody goes, well, why are you writing? Why are you posting on LinkedIn? I'm old. You said the 30 years. I don't know if you saw me wincing a little bit, right? It's over 30. I cap it at 30 so I don't seem ancient, okay? But the whole thing is you do get to a period where you want to give back and you think you've learned something that may help somebody. And so I would tell people, even when you listen to my recommendations, right? Take it with a grain of salt. That's what we say in the States. It means go out and vet it and sit with it and make sure it sits right. There's another saying, advice is worth what you pay for it. That's not always true, but it reminds us that just because somebody is a supposed expert says it, doesn't mean it's gold, right? So that's the other thing I would tell people.
Thank you so much, Aloysius. You spoke about, when you answered my question, finally, thank you so much, about there is no right time. No, it was perfect. Everything you added was like sugar, so perfect. I was just thinking, you were mentioning something like when you have the problem, it's a good moment to start your business, right? The problem you want to solve. And then you said something like confidence, and I'm not quite sure if you also said resilience. But my question is, what skills do I need as a founder?
So you need an open mind, curiosity, flexibility, and what you just said, resilience. And I call resilience could be grit, it could be determination, it could be drive, right? But you need some form of that, because that's what gets you through the tough times. And there will be tough times. We had a consulting company. We went through all the tough times. We're out the other side. Things were looking great. I stepped back. My other partner stepped back. One of the key partners stayed in and was driving it with a person we gave a lot of responsibility to, and they forgot what got us to be successful, and we started losing money, and not a little, and for like 4 months in a row, and then it started getting be sizable, and so I had to come back in, and those were really tough times. So that's why you need that grit. That grit gets you through a lot. A lot of people think it's intelligence. I just think you need slightly above average intelligence to make a difference, and that's about it. And then the rest is all character and grit. And you got to keep an open mind, because otherwise you'll not look at things as they really are, and you won't learn and grow. And that's what allows that open mind.
Thank you so much. You know, for me, it's more like a roller coaster, you know. So if you like roller coasters, then you should, you should found your own business. Maybe this is also a good comparison. I don't know.
Well, I rather like the comparison of sailing, because a roller coaster is still controlled, right?
Absolutely.
You know what's going up and down. I can see it before I get on. Whereas sailing, once I get in that boat, I'm not really sure how we're going to get there, because I might have to tack to the east or to the west. It all depends upon the waves, the wind, the current, right? And all those conditions. And then my boat and its capability of handling those different things. And so I think I had a vice president at the company that I worked with, where I started the startup inside of it. He used the sailing. And the more I read about it and got to understand sailing, the more I appreciate it as a great business analogy. I think it's so true. I know where I'm at. I know where I want to go. And then how do I get there? That's a lot of course correction and adjustment, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So time is flying, unfortunately, but maybe you can give a short summary how you right now could help organizations or, young leaders or experts to work with you,
Well, the only thing I would say is, I'll tell you what my fundamental philosophy is. You start everything from being ethical, moral character, truth, honesty, and integrity. If you start with those things, it doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful, but it will guarantee that the people you bring into your life will have respect and trust in you, and will start off your engagements in the right path, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is then be attentive to the details and read the water. You go back to the sailing analogy. Be willing to take that plan you work so hard on and change it as soon as you can see that it's not going to work. And the reason why I advocate for this is I've seen so many startup founders and so many business leaders. They spend so much time on the plan. They get too dedicated to the plan and forget what's really important, right? It's the goal, the outcome. Fall in love with the outcome, but don't become a servant to it, because that's when ethics go out the window. So as soon as the outcome becomes too important, that's when you'll start doing questionable things. Stay the course, keep the ethics.
Thank you so much, Aloysius. So this was a very, very nice podcast. And everyone, please, contact us if you would like to work with Aloysius Carl. He is a genius, especially in those topics. Oh, you are.
Don't know about that. I don't. Again, experience. That's the value of age and trying a lot of things. We have experience, right? And I think that's what people need to learn. You might not have the experience, but that's why action's important. That gives you the experience. So if you want to do a business and you're waiting for the perfect moment, that's a mistake. Perfect moment never happens. You have
Thank
to
you
put
so much.
something into action and get feedback, right? And I've coached many founders about this, right? And then when they make the plunge, at the first sign of problems, they're ready to ditch. No. Assume problems. They're going to happen. And if you don't have problems, I have a question for you. What kind of a market do you think you're going to have? Because if it's real easy, anybody and everybody can do it. Problems are good. That's what actually creates opportunity and moats. So don't run away from problems. Dig in, learn about them, and then use them to your advantage. That's what I said.
Thank you so much, Aloysius.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aloysius. It was a pleasure talking to you. I very much appreciate our episode tonight. And I hope we stay connected. And I wish you a wonderful, Wednesday evening later on, right? In Cincinnati.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you so much.
And good luck to you in Germany as well as Suzette.
Thank you.